Well, hopefully you guys all have your Facebook ads on so you can follow along, and you can all see my screen and hopefully hear me a-okay. So let's get started. For those who don't know who I am, I'm Trevor Waddington. I'm the principal at Truth Tree Consulting. We work exclusively with schools and camps to really to help them design their dream enrollment through digital marketing strategies and more. If you've read any of my blogs or any of our blogs, or you were on last month or early this month for our Google Ads webinar, essentially the same thing but just a different platform. You know, I'm a big fan of Facebook to really help you disseminate your brand story. And today we're going to focus on how, when, who, and why your school should be on Facebook ads or Facebook business and ads account, and how you can design your ultimate enrollment. If you have questions, you can feel free to put those in the chat. Brianna, who's one of our awesome team members, is on today, and she's going to be taking a look at those, and we'll open up her mic in a little bit to read or to share with some of those questions with me. Now, if you were to go to YouTube right now, you can type in how to Facebook ads, and you're going to find 1,000,001 how-to videos. And well, the purpose of our time, we are going to go over the basics, but really the purpose of our time is to kind of take you through how we at Truth Tree design ads for schools based on their branding, their marketing message, and also their enrollment goals. So while I'll be, again, sharing some of those with you, I mainly want to focus on our design thinking behind successful ads. So I was reading recently how this quarantine experience is actually going to make our society more distractible, if that's even possible. So to make sure that you're all still with me, for those that have come in over the last couple minutes, I want you to type in the chat, what is one big takeaway that you want to get out of our time together? What is one big takeaway that you want to get out of this webinar? And Brianna's going to take a look at those, and we'll share some of those before we jump into the actual the demo portion where we actually create an ad. That is a blank screen. Why is that? I don't know. Here we go. So just a little bit about me. I've been doing Facebook ads for a little over a decade now, working in schools and working for schools. So I've seen the medium and the long-term impacts of effective social media marketing, both paid and organic. And I started my career, I was a social studies teacher at a small private school just outside Philadelphia. 12 years ago, I moved to Maryland, where I currently am now, to take a job as director of admissions, marketing, communications, financial aid, and non-tuition revenue. So that was just 5 of those hats. And by the way, I was a one-person office. So I really had to find ways to get the word out beyond the traditional tactics that, you know, included a lot of boots on the ground work that I had to do. Now, this was 2008, and I started hearing how a lot of my friends from back home were on this thing called Facebook, and that it might be a good idea for me to join Facebook so I could stay in touch with everyone. And I balked and I balked, and finally in January of 2009, I finally joined. My dog Tilly, who is still alive and kicking, was my first profile picture, and my love for the movie Anchorman was reflected in my first ever Facebook post. And spoiler alert, I did not change my name to Rich Mahogany, but maybe after this I will. Who knows? Now, it wasn't long after that I discovered that businesses were actually advertising on the site, and I thought, well, if Facebook is really going to be a phenomenon moving forward, there's only so much that I could do and only so many places I could be as a one-person office. So I was really going to have to get creative with my marketing strategy and budget. So I dove in and I started advertising on Facebook pretty early. So with that little bit of background, I want to move now into a little bit of when you should be advertising on social media. Some of these are going to be what I call no duh, where you're going to say, really, we're going to, to advertise an open house. And some of them might be a little bit of a surprise, but I don't want to leave anybody out. Anybody who is a a newbie out there to digital marketing. Plus, and I'm sure now some of you, I'm sure, have had somebody come up to you in the last couple of years. Maybe it's an older, maybe somebody from grandparents and special friends day said, hey, there's this thing called Facebook, and you might want to think about putting open houses on there. So, while you can laugh that off, obviously afterwards, I'm sure that a lot of times for many of you, people, whether it's board members or other teachers or administrators or parents, have come up to you with, the quote, brilliant idea for marketing that they have. So quick heat check before we talk about a couple more of these. How many of you, you can say I, or you can write EIE, or you can write the letter I. How many of you in recent years have had a brilliant idea? And I kind of say that sarcastically. And actually, this time I am being sarcastic, not just saying I am. How many of you, say I in the chat, if you've had a parent or a board member come up with a brilliant idea that you've been doing and they think that they just invented it? Say I in the chat so I know you're there. Kind of what I suspected. Good. Joe, that's a lot of eyes. So you've had a lot of parents come up. Yeah, I know, right, Doug? That happens all the time. One thing I don't miss about being in the school is I call them bomb droppers. They say, have you ever thought about doing this? And yes, we have. Now, the second sort of obvious use is when you have a strong call to action. Now, this can be a deadline, a cancellation. I'm sure there were a lot of those in the past 3 months. Limited space remaining, a few tickets left for an event, something along those lines. Next reason to use Facebook and Instagram for marketing is when you have an offer. Now, something along the lines of 5% off if you were to do something for your summer online courses, if you're offering something along those lines coming up this summer. Now, a couple that may not be as obvious or frankly have been overlooked in recent years as we've moved to Business Manager and having your own ads account. And that is to be sure, and this is the most important one. I'm going to repeat that. This is, I think, the most important aspect of Facebook that you can use for your marketing. That is retargeting interested families or parents who have interacted with your school online. Now, to do that, you need to install a Facebook Pixel. It's a lot easier than it used to be, depending on what website company you're using, whether you're doing it yourself, you have somebody doing it on WordPress, for example, or if you're on Finalsite or Edlio or something like that. It is so important to have that Facebook Pixel and cue to that with Google having your site tagged. And this is because you want to be able to track people. So for those that don't know, a Facebook Pixel, it's essentially a tracking beacon. So you're able to capture those people, their cookies, their email, whatever it is, and you're able to then retarget them and show them ads later on. We've all seen it as you go online shopping or you're on Facebook. You're seeing ads and you're seeing them for a reason. There is a reason you're seeing them. And you want people to see your information, and I don't even want to call it an ad, but really something to stay top of mind for families as they're going through the evaluation process for an independent school. Next one is for brand awareness. It's important to continually ping out to your powerful brand message. What makes your school unique? And it's really important, especially to do that. And I'm going to show you this with this next slide, that there really isn't a consideration cycle as much as there used to be when it comes to independent schools. Now you can see from this chart, and you can get this information directly from Google Trends. Go to, I think it's trends.google.com. But if you go to Google or any search engine and type in Google Trends, you can go in, you can type in any search word, any search term to see what the volume of that is comparatively throughout the year. And what you can see from this slide is that yes, there are times in the summer, obviously, and then right around the winter holidays where there are some dips. But really the top time is the end of March, moving into April, and then we start to see that dip. Also around October and then January as well. But it really, marketing your school needs to be a year-round event. You may not spend as much in the summer, but certainly you don't want to you want to stay top of mind for these families. Now, the next one is something that schools primarily did in advertising years ago, which is to boost an organic post. And I think that's kind of fallen by the wayside for some schools, but I think it is important. So when you post something and it gets a lot of engagement, unless it's completely an internal matter, like you're advertising your digital auction or your digital spring gala to raise funds, you really should be considering boosting what it is to targeted groups. So in the example here, if that you've talked about the ski club's trip to Smuggler's Notch, you might want to boost this to area, or depending on who your target audience is. But if you're a local school and you only draw from the local market, you want to boost this to ski enthusiasts who may say, hey, this is great. This school has a ski club. It's not something that they're necessarily looking for in a school, but it's definitely an added bonus. And for some, it's more than an added bonus. Now, along those lines, I'm going to give you some very, very, very specific tips at the end of this and how you can gain tremendous brand equity with families well before they would consider you for admission. So if you start in kindergarten, you start in 6, if you start in 9, doesn't matter. I'm going to give you some very, very specific strategies after we do the demo. So before we start the demo, I know some people put some questions and some thoughts in there. Brianna, if you want to turn your mic on, what were some of the questions that people asked? I want to make sure that we're able to tackle some of them as we go through this.
Hi. So some of the questions that were asked was, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, I can hear you.
What's the most effective way to use social media ads?
Okay. I think we talked a little bit about that here, but that's a really important one. It's really what is your enrollment goal? And I don't see Facebook. Facebook should not be your handshake or your initial meeting with families. I don't know any family that goes to, or any parent, I should say, that actually goes to Facebook and says, hey, honey, I'm going to go to Facebook. Hopefully we can find a school on Facebook. They go to Google, they do a search, they write down some school names, and then they're going to go to social media and other places to find out more information.
Okay, and then how much do you recommend a small school invest in Facebook ads?
That's a really good question. You hate the answer, it depends. If you really do it in an effective manner, and you were doing it year round, you could do something for $3,000 for the year to really make an impact, I think, for a small school. Another good question. How about we do one more and then we can answer some more towards the end, because I'm looking at some of the questions and we are actually going to be tackling a lot of these as we jump into the demo piece of it.
What is the best way to spend money on Facebook?
Best money on Facebook is retargeting. Absolutely retargeting. Because that's where, more time is spent on Facebook online than practically anywhere else, where the people on Facebook are actively engaged with, scrolling with their thumb or scrolling with their mouse, and they continue to do that. So if you can show them ads, frankly, on a daily basis, whether they click on it or not, it's adding to your brand awareness, and it's building value as they see different aspects of your school's program. So good questions. We'll grab a couple more as we go along. Now, I want to thank Ascension Academy. Ascension Academy won, if it really was much of a competition. We're going to be using Ascension Academy, which is located in Amarillo, Texas, as our demo school. Now, they are a grade 6 to 12 school in Amarillo, Texas, and they are faith-based. So these are just some of the, we're skipping ahead a little bit here. So we're going to use a little bit of this as we jump in here. Now I've got a couple screens going, and reason why I'm looking over here. So once you have drilled down, and I put in the email yesterday for those that got it, that it really behooves you at this point in 2020 or in marketing, that you have a business account and you have your ads manager account. Because this is what, when you first start to create that ad, this is really what you're going to be looking at here. So and everybody can see this, right? Somebody just hit me in the chat here that you can see this. Faith affirming. Okay, Katie, I appreciate that. Faith affirming, not specific religious affiliation. All right, so we can all see this. So the beauty of Facebook is that you don't necessarily have to know what each one of these terms means, although they're pretty much self-explanatory. But you can always hover over things in Facebook to get a better explanation. Now, at Truth Tree, we don't use all of these. We'll use conversions, absolutely. We'll use lead gen, message for those schools that want to do that, engagement, traffic, brand awareness, and reach. But typically for most schools, we want to send them to their website. And particularly, we want to send them to a landing page on their website. So the best way to do that, really to start off, is with traffic. So we're going to click traffic, and then it's going to open up down here. Now, what we usually do is we'll name the campaign for what our goal is. So usually when we start off in our partnership with a school, we want to kind of get a little bit of the digital lay of the land. So we'll do a general awareness campaign, a school-wide campaign, and then we'll break it down based on what their enrollment goals are. If they need more entry level into 6th grade or 9th grade, or if they need more if they need more girls in a certain grade, if they're looking for more diversity in certain grades or sections, there are ways to filter it so we can push ads towards hopeful full pay families. So we'll call this one general awareness, and this way it allows us to kind of go back and know exactly what we were trying to accomplish. So we love to do A/B testing. Frankly, we'll sometimes have little wagers internally about what's going to work, whether this picture or that picture is going to get more engagements with the same content. I really think A/B testing is an important piece of this, because I think one of the most important things in marketing your school is self-awareness, that even I have an 8 and a 5-year-old, and yet I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know, our fictitious Truth Tree Academy that we use a lot. It really matters what the audience is seeing, hearing, and how they're evaluating everything. So we're going to hit continue. So what we did, again, just a real quick recap on this page. We click traffic, and what traffic is we're trying to get people to a destination, which is your website or your landing page. We named it, and we didn't click any of these yet, but these are things we can do in a more advanced round of this. So at the top, you can name this, especially if we're going to drill down to different things. So if we wanted to have a general awareness campaign surrounding an open house or some event or specifics, we can put whatever that is up here. Maybe it's targeting a specific area. So, other than the little bit of research I did for this, I don't know the Amarillo area that well. But maybe we want to target specific towns or folks to the north of Amarillo or in the heart of Amarillo, right around where it's located. So you can put, we'll put heart of Amarillo, or kindergarten parents, or in this case, 6th grade parents, something along those lines. I'll just scribble something in here for right now. Now, as we go down, one of the great things about, 50-mile radius, is traffic the same? All right, we'll do a 50-mile radius, Katie. So one of the great things, there are a lot of free resources out there where you can do market research. One of the best is Facebook. You may not be able to get that super granular, detailed information, but just like any market research platform, it's never going to be 100% accurate, and you can't think that Facebook is either. So with that said, you can really see, like, if you're trying to target, the wealthy folks that love skiing and have kids ages 9 through 17, you can do that. And up here under potential reach, it's going to give you a number. And what that number will help you do is say, okay, that's a good number for us to start with. Here are our enrollment goals for right now. So I'm going to come down here to the audience. Now you can, if you have saved audiences, you can click and you can do that. You can see here's the one for Amarillo that I did with a 10-mile radius as I was kind of practicing this. But we can create that, or we can create a custom audience based on all sorts of information, like if you have email addresses, if you have visitors to the website where you're going to need, I can't hover over it, but if you look in the bottom right-hand corner of the box that just popped up, it says needs, Facebook pixel. So these are all sorts of ways for you to capture their information and then show them ads. And it actually becomes, over the long haul, less expensive because you're not trying to target a larger group, you're targeting specific people for specific reasons. So with that, we'll come down here. Now, for schools that really only are looking in their area, they're not international schools, they're not boarding schools, we really want to do is click to people living in those locations. Just like with any of these, Facebook, they want you to spend your money with them, and they want you to spend it kind of fast. So with that, you know, they leave it here, people living in or recently in these locations. It's especially dangerous to do this first one, especially if you are a tourist destination, New York City, Los Angeles, any of those, because you're going to be capturing a lot of people that aren't necessarily looking for a school in that location. So we're going to do this. We're going to click people living in the location. We're going to click off of the United States, and we're going to do Amarillo. I can't spell. There we go. And Katie had popped up that 50-mile radius is what they do. So let's bump it out to 50. And even with the radius, I mean, it's not, there we go. So that's a large area, but maybe something up here, let me scroll up a little bit, that they also capture some families up here. We can just do a quick drop pin right here. And it usually defaults to 10 miles or 25 miles. So you can do that. You can also do specifically, you can do the city itself. So if I wanted to do Amarillo, or if I want, let's say I'll do Fort Worth. And you can change this to the current city only. So you can see that I'm targeting this area here. Now this is a good way, because even though it says that they're living there, a lot of cases that's where they're pinging from. So for those that, you know, where you're in a bedroom community, for example, or you live outside of a major city, but most of your parents that you're targeting live in that city, this is an opportunity where you want to, you know, certainly target that area there. Now, depending on how, going back a little bit to the market research piece, you know, you want to think about the ages of your parents, but a lot of times too, remember, this is Facebook. So, you know, people don't always put their ages on here, or they change their ages. So it's not as super reliable, but for market research purposes, let's just say, because we're starting at grade 6, we'll say 33 as the youngest grade, or as the youngest age. And then we'll do, let's say, we'll do 63. All genders. Sometimes people will say, oh, well, you know, let's just target the moms. And typically moms are the ones that are targeting, you know, that are the ones that are looking. I'm just taking a look at Joe. Can you target by zip code instead of city and get a really granular with location targeting? For example, our school's in Buffalo. Absolutely, Joe. I mean, you can get it down to you can go down to all the way down to 1 mile, as you can see right here. So you can target that 1 mile area, and that's it. The problem with that is that when this number gets really low and gets into the specific red area, Facebook's just not going to bother showing that ad. So here's where the fun comes in, whether you're advertising or not. So there's 2 things that I really look for, and I don't know what the economic situation is, or, you know, the household incomes in Amarillo. That's a little bit of research that we would do, kind of coming along with this. Yeah, Benson, you're right. I mean, you can drop as many pins as you want. Don't think that just that radius area is what you need. So the first thing I'm going to do is type in here parents. Now, as you go in here, you can do browse, and you can look through all sorts of things. Demographics, you can hit up people that have just college graduate degrees. You can hit up doctors, where they went to school. There's so many things here. What we're going to focus on are parents. Again, if I could spell. So knowing the demographic that we're trying to hit for Ascension is we're going to do parents of teenagers, 13 to 17, and we're going to do 9 to 12. So, you know, you can go a little bit above, you can go a little bit below that. So now what we've seen is within a 50 square mile radius and a little bit of, I think we did Fort Worth as well, but let me actually get rid of, let me pop back up here. I'm going to get rid of Fort Worth, and we're going to get rid of this 1 mile area here, because Katie said 50 mile radius. So we've got 10,000 parents, 10,000 people on Facebook in that 50-mile square radius that pop in here. Now, frankly, I'd probably leave that as is, but for what we're trying to accomplish right now with just a little bit of research, I want to narrow that down to the top. We'll go top 10 first, and see that brings us under 1,000. Facebook's not going to show any ads, so I want to do 10 to 25. That gets us up to 3,700. Now, even though this arrow points to the middle here, you know, and this is a defined group, it really behooves us to get something between 5,000 and 8,000 for this. So a couple other things that you can do, because we want to tackle parents. Now, one thing that Katie said was that it's faith affirming. So someone who may be Christian or religious, they may want to be a part of it. And maybe they don't fall within the top 25 category, but maybe there's other money somewhere, or frankly, maybe they really just want to, you know, it is at the top of their list of importance. So I'm going to put something like Christian school here. As one of the interests, and that gets us, so it's not, hasn't moved the bar yet. So we could try private school, because maybe they are interested in private school. So we moved up from 3,700 to 4,000, and we can continue to do this. But I think the important piece is that we're targeting parents that have kids of these ages. Now, Adam says, if you select both parent demographic groups, is limiting to parents with only both kids with. Oh, no, Adam, it's anybody who has a kid within that group. So they could have a 9-year-old and a 2-year-old. They could have a 17-year-old and a 35-year-old. But though, so it's that they have one in the household that age. So these are constants, but the other piece of it too is you can do, if you're really trying to just build up that list, especially if you're looking for a brand awareness campaign, you know, you can open it up to all of these ages. Frankly, I think it's a good idea to do this because, you know, at least if it's a brand awareness campaign, and this is something we'll go into after the demo, is you don't want people just finding out about your school the year that they're starting to look at schools. If you can really have brand awareness and build that brand value with them much earlier on than 6th grade in this case, you should definitely do that. So we've got 4,000. It's not bad. I'd like for it to be a bit bigger, but I do want to move on. Showing more options here, you can target the languages that you are, you know, especially something down there where you want to, and we'll do this on the next one too, is we can do that as well. Oh, no. Oh, in English as well. Sorry. English. So it's still 4,000. So you can break it down to that if you wanted to just target Spanish-speaking households, and you can actually change the content the content of the ad as well. I'm just going to click off of these for now, bringing it back up. Save the audience. We'll call this, let's see. All students, we'll save it at that. Definitely want to save it, be specific, otherwise you're going to be kind of combing through these. So for this, what we want to do, now there's a couple ways to go through this as we look at where to place the ad. Now, most of us, when we go on Facebook, it's that feed. But again, Facebook wants to show it a lot of places so you can spend a little bit more money. And frankly, I don't think a lot of them are worth it. So typically I'll click off of Audience Network and Messenger. We still want to keep a close eye on where this number is right here in the corner. And you know, if you just wanted to show in the feeds coming through, you can click off of everything, including stories, in-stream, search. But again, you want to keep an eye on this number. Now we're already too specific, so we want to pop some of these back in here. Now, news, you know, the news feed and the Instagram feed. This is really where I think you're going to make the most, you know, your best bang for your buck. The others, it's more vanity. I mean, frankly, when people are looking at stories, they're shuffling through them pretty quickly. Not everybody knows how to stop a story from progressing to move on. And if you've got a lot of information in that ad, you know, you might not want to post it there. So you can decide which of these and where to show them. And again, you can A/B test these things. Now, as far as what you want them to accomplish, you can do landing page views. I mean, some of these have to do, and you really do need the pixels. But typically, what we like to do is link clicks. We want to see who's clicking on it, and then really seeing what their journey is once they get to the site, and getting feedback from our school partners. You know, if they, for example, if they call, if you get 10 phone calls in a day, and you know they're all wildly inappropriate, or you know they're not a good fit for your school, us getting that feedback is important so we can adjust these. Here, are there price differences depending on what you target? Yes, Carrie, there are. So depending on who you target, it really is, it's a competition, it's a bidding competition. So one thing we'll talk about at the end of this is when you look at your data and it says you're in the bottom 35% or bottom 50%, or it's an average ad, you have to understand that you are competing against companies that have a lot more money in some cases, but are targeting parents and trying to sell them a good or service that's $100 or $500 or $1,000, not many thousands of dollars year after year after year. So I'm gonna, you know, I have no problem, you know, well, my wife would, but I don't have a problem, you know, like, oh, spur of the moment buying something for $50 that I see for my kids. But certainly I may not click an ad for a school because I realize that that's going to cost $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 a year. So coming down here, especially if you're just starting out, I would start out with either a lifetime budget or a very, very low daily budget. You don't want to forget about that this was turned on. I actually, and I was telling Brianna this earlier, that when I was working through one of these with a client, and I didn't turn it off, and I ended up spending $257 on like literally a complete fake ad for something I created. It was a widget, and it didn't do too well. So you want to make sure that you set this here, so you can set a start date and an end date. So we'll say it's $5 daily budget between now. Here's another tip too. So when you see that the start date is April 28th, this is set to Pacific time. When you open up the second one, know that you are on the next month. So if I'm trying to just do a couple days, maybe up through Thursday, I'm going to spend $10 over the next 2 days, which is fine. So this is now, any questions so far? Because we're going to actually go through the build of the ad itself. Well, if you have questions, you can pop those in the chat. So you can advertise an existing post. Well, you can't use a mock-up anymore, but we're going to create a new ad, and you can do a carousel. You can do a single image or video. You can actually create a video out of photos. You can do a collection as well. The very simplest thing to do is to create a single image ad. You can also add an instant experience. The problem with the instant experience is that when people do fill out that Facebook form, which is in there, and it's beautiful and it's great, but you then have to come into your business manager, download it as a CSV, and you may find that it's completely blank. Nobody's filled out that form. You do that every day, every few days. There are a few platforms and widgets and apps you can use that will immediately send you an alert when you get those things. And that's definitely something to look into. But ultimately, you know, if you can get them to your website and browsing your website, that's really what you want to do. How does FB calculate the cost per click? Christine asks. It's based on a few things. The main thing is, what is the competition for the people that you are targeting? So if nobody else is targeting a 50-mile radius of Amarillo, which is probably, no pun intended, slim. I like that one. Amarillo slim, for all those poker lovers out there. And parents in those different categories, it's about who you're bidding for. But also, the more you dig down and the more it's a smaller audience, they want to get their money's worth out of it, so they're going to charge you more. So frankly, the larger the audience, typically the less per click, unless there is a lot of competition for the people that you are targeting. So first thing we'll do is we're going to add some media, and it's going to show you some embarrassing pictures. I put a couple in here from the school. One of the things it'll show you, so I'll do my daughter and myself right here, although I don't know that that's a picture that's going to fit. A couple tips with the picture that you put in here. Some people will say you know if it's kind of an offbeat candid like this is. I mean, yeah, we're staring at the camera, but one thing that doesn't go over well is that really manicured photo of 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, 1 African American, 1 white, 1 Asian American, 1 mixed race. Different heights, different grades. Obviously, it's a posed picture. That doesn't always go over well. So as we're looking to, oh, and real quick too, you can decide where you want these to show up and obviously the dimensions, so you can change how this photo looks, and you can customize it. So if you wanted to sort of recenter this, you can do that. Now, the most important piece of this when we talk about thumb stopping is the headline down here. It's not what I call the top copy or the primary text. It's what is right here where it says headline. Because people will scroll down and it's that headline that usually catches them, where they scroll back up and then they'll read what that top copy is here. Also the picture, and you can put text in the picture here, but let's start with the headline. So one thing I read about Ascension Academy, I think it was the only, what was it? It's the only school. I love words like only, because that really does put you in a category of one. Only college preparatory school focusing on providing an education in a challenging faith-affirming environment. So what could be a good headline? And you can type in the chat here, just from the 5 seconds we've been on this site. What is a headline? What is a question? What is a bold statement that we could put in this headline to grab attention? Well, one thing you can do, and you can do it in the primary text and you can do it in the headline, is you can use emojis. Now, for some of you, it may be completely out the door. You know, emojis aren't a part of your school ethos. I like to use emojis to get people's attention. And you can choose from ones where you right click. If you have Microsoft, you can do that here. Or you can go to emoji. So if I type in school emoji, you go to Emojipedia. You can copy this thing here, pop back in here, and something like that. And then I can type in I do not know how to spell. Hey, Amarillo area parents. If I'm an Amarillo area parent, I'm probably going to stop at that. From there, if this didn't stop me already, I mean, what does that have to be with it being an Amarillo parent? Now, obviously, you would want something that was more school related. And then when you come up here, you either want to answer, you know, if it's a question you put down here, a statement, what's a question that you can ask? Are you seeking a faith-affirming school? So that's a question that you can put in here. Now, this is something that I talk about a lot, and that is, and this is offending nobody out there. Unless you are the tippy top school in your market, nobody cares about your name. They only care what you can do for their kid. So if you're leading with at Ascension Academy, you know, we do all of this stuff, but what's in it for me? So if you can start with, you know, are you seeking, would your child will experience a faith-affirming school at your only college prep school in our area. So if you are seeking the only faith-affirming and this is something we would learn too. I mean, what is it called? The Greater Amarillo area. I live in what we call the DMV, which is DC, Maryland to Virginia. If Chicago has Chicagoland. I mean, every area, every metropolitan area has those niches. The more niche you can get with that, the better. So are you seeking the only faith-based affirming college college prep school in the area, because we're targeting the area, so we can keep it at that. Now, one thing you can do to help possibly get attention is what is called, and there's a few of them. And you can just go to Google and type in Facebook font changer, and you can change the font. So you can come down here, and we'll just grab this one. Try that again. Copy. And you can change the font. That's going to grab people's attention too. Again, if you want them to stop and look at your ad, because there's so much in that feed, and once they see sponsor, a lot of times they're just going to flow by it. So anything that you can do to capture their attention, I should probably have a comma under hey, you want to be able to do that. So if you are seeking the only faith-based, faith-affirming college prep school in the area, are you seeking it? If you are, keep reading or read below. And you can put an emoji in here, something as simple as, you know, the finger pointing down. And then we can start more content here. Now this is where you can put in, and this is where this is where you can literally put as much information as you want down here. Because if they're going to click the more button, you know, they're going to continue to read. You don't want too much, but this is where I think, you know, you can put reviews, obviously good reviews that your parents have put in here. Other information that is not, I mean, you want to have some of the general information, but especially as you get more granular and you get more targeted with who you are trying to capture with your information, you can put that information in here. So pop back over here. We can put something like, you know, this statement here. And then you can look at how the ad is going to come up on the different versions. You can do desktop. So for desktop, doesn't always work when you put the description here. Typically for a description, I just like to be very straightforward. So private school for age or for grades. And that's not always going to show up, especially depending on how long your headline or your headline's going to be. You can target the Hispanic market, absolutely. And I'll show you how to do that as well. So when you come down here, and again, I can't stress this enough. Please. If you spend all this time making, and I'm not saying this is a great ad, but if you spend all this painstaking time making what you think is an amazing ad, and it probably is, make sure that you are sending them to a page that continues the story that started up here. So if I'm putting all this information here, and I get super excited about this school for myself, for my child, and then I get sent to the home page where, hey, it looks nice. And yes, they do have this little chat bot down here. I don't know if anybody's answering it right now, which is great. But I'm now in a emotive state where I am excited about this school, and I'm more apt to give you my information. All I want from you is first name, email address. If I can get your email address, I can start retargeting you. Obviously, with your email address, I can email you and say, hey, we see you're interested in the school. How can I help you? So please have a dedicated landing page that continues this story. Whichever page you are sending the user to should have the pixel embedded, correct? John, absolutely. So you can create multiple ones for those specific landing pages so you can see how this, I mean, the ad may have gotten clicked on, but you really want to look at who you're targeting. So they click on the ad and then, you know, it's 95% bounce, where another landing page with a different ad is getting a 50% bounce. There's a reason for that, and you want to be able to track that. So when you come down here, and it already has the ascensionacademy.org display link, but you can do, you know, anythingyouwant.com. and that'll show up there. Although you don't want to do what I just did.com, because then people might think it's clickbait. So then you have the button. You can do no button, which actually gives you more room to write stuff here. Most of the time, learn more. There's a reason it's there. Apply now. A lot of schools love that because click this ad based on the picture. Oh, thank you, Megan. I appreciate that. Your check is in the mail. The apply now. So the apply now button, it's kind of like you go on a first date with someone, and at the end of the date, you ask them to marry you. Listen, hey, this looks great. I want to find out more. I'm not ready to apply yet. Pump the brakes a little bit. But certainly if you are retargeting people, and you're retargeting people specifically who have started the process, you want to give them every opportunity to remember, like, hey, application deadline is this Friday. You need to apply now. Hey, give them one click and then send them right to that application. But you don't want to do that to people that are just starting to check it out. So, and this is where we would come down here, and you were asking specifically about targeting the Hispanic population. Yes, you can. So remove placement to continue. Okay. So you're going to select the language that the ad was created in, which is English. And then what you want to do is you want to add a language. So I'm going to go with Spanish based on where it's located. Now, what I will tell you when you do this, because I do not speak Spanish, and it's going to say that until we decide to save it. So enter headline in Spanish. Oh, wait, it's supposed to translate it for me. Why is it not doing that? Default language, Spanish. Let me save it here real quick. Why is it not saving? Because usually what it does is it translates it for you. Why is it not translating it for me? Hold on, let me back out of this. English. English. And then typically what it does, I'm not sure, I must have not clicked on something right, or I didn't do something. It did have a message that popped up, and per usual, I did not read it. I'm going to close. But what that will do is it will allow you here to then translate it to that other language, and you can target the Hispanic population with that. But what I will tell you is, I know a lot of these softwares, it's not an exact translation. So you want to make sure that it does. You don't want to sound dumb in Spanish or dumb in whatever language you're doing. Let's see. Okay, Joe and John are, okay, you just answered a question there. So you want to turn your Facebook pixel on. Right now mine is Trevor Waddington pixel, which is not even a pixel. So that's going to be able to help you track it. And then you come down here and you confirm the ad, and then you move on. So any questions about creating the actual ad? Okay, yes, we will. We are recording it. I hope, Brianna, we're recording it. So yes, there'll be a recording of this as well. So any questions specific to creating the ad itself? Excuse me. So when you get to the back end, and it's difficult to show here. Let me pop out of this and we'll head back into the reporting area. I don't want to do that. But what it'll show you the data that's coming in. And again, I just want to reiterate, don't be discouraged if you're not seeing these wild conversion rates as compared to other ads, because again, you are a big ticket service-based item. You're not selling bubble gum. You're not selling, $10 items that I can buy on, if I click here, that you'll deliver for free. This is, it's tuition. Obviously we all know it's a huge commitment as we go through. What kind of school photos do you recommend? You mentioned not using group photos with diverse groups. Christine, I wouldn't use that because, a lot of people of color that I talk to, they see through that. If you have, kind of everything under the rainbow covered in one picture, and I'm a parent, regardless if I'm diverse or not, you can see that I'm not, and I go to the school and I see white face after white face, I see that as clickbait. So you want to make sure, at least in the grand scheme of the photos that you use, you want to be true to who your school is. So as far as photos are concerned with this, there's a couple, if you're looking at the camera or the person is looking at you. So with this ad here that we created in here, we are both looking at the user. That gets attention. The proximity of us to the camera, that gets attention as well. The other things are in motion, so kids that are actively engaged. Now, what I would tell you to do is, what's the one thing that makes your school more unique than any other school? One thing I noticed on Ascension is they have a lot of pictures of fencing. I don't know a lot of schools that have a fencing team, but that would get me to stop and look. I might not be interested in fencing per se, but guess what? If I am interested in fencing, I'm going to click on that ad. So the more dynamic and not posed, the better. One of the other things that and I didn't run this, but yellow. If you can get yellow in your picture, that's great too. Another thing is, within reason, you can add words. There's a lot of great software out there. We use Canva a lot for a lot of the ads that we run for our school partners, for ourselves as well, where you can add worded content in the photo. Facebook, there's a limit to how much you can do as you're doing that. So popping out of here, because I did promise you some specifics. So let's present, and let me get my stuff back up here, my notes, so I know what the heck I'm saying, and we'll maximize that. So I promised you some tips, and tips we shall have. So let's pretend, for the sake of argument, that the school now we're talking about is K-12, entry level obviously is K, but K is smaller and smaller, and you need an obvious boost. So if you can present your brand to parents at this stage, as you can see from this ad that we've created here, if you can provide value for parents at this stage, even though you start at grade 5, or excuse me, at K, age 5, I guess, you're really going to put yourself in the pole position for families when it comes time to search for an independent school. So yes, not every mom who sees this is going to consider your school or private education to begin with. But again, it puts you in the hero position. You are providing them with value, because I know for my wife, when she was a first-time mom 8 years ago, even though she had a lot of support around her, there were things that she didn't know, and there are a lot of things that she wished she did know. JD asked, will the presentation recording be available? Yes, it will. No worries at all, JD. Thanks for being here. We're pre-K to 8. How do we get pre-K to translate to kindergarten? We often have drop-off. That's a great question. It's a little bit out of the scope of this. Certainly you can do it through social media. I think something like that, and we can talk offline about that. I think that's just a matter of kind of pounding home the message why kindergarten is important. My guess is they're leaving pre-K because they're going to the public school for free. So again, here's another good example of how you can build that equity with them. I don't know how many new Corona bike riders are out there. My youngest daughter, 5, petrified to ride a bike, 2-wheel bike 5 weeks ago. Now we are a bike riding family. We bike all over our town. We call it it is the Tour de Friendship, as opposed to the Tour de France, where we go and we bike ride to my daughter's friends' houses, and we we'll stand in the street and wave to them and have a quick chat. So that's our Tour de Friendship. But without knowing that, this would have been a great article for me to read. And if you can infuse this with your brand, that's just a huge bonus. Now, Megan is in on this. Megan is at Oak Knoll School. Full disclosure, Oak Knoll is one of our school partners. It's great because they put out a ton of timely content. Some of the content they put out is rah-rah Oak Knoll, as well it should be. Other pieces are just very helpful to the community at large, for parents, all of those things. And it helps us in the work that we do for them, because it makes for great posting for things like SEO for them. So all that said, it's been an hour or it's been 57 minutes since we got started. So at this point of the presentation, I want to thank all of you who've joined me. I know, times are tough, and I'm just really grateful that you've spent the last 57 minutes with us learning about Facebook and Instagram ads. So now if you are fully confident and ready to take on social media marketing and your digital marketing in general, you can leave, go get started today, showing off your newfound knowledge. But if any of you are interested in working with TruthTree, working with me for your digital marketing, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Google Ads, things like that, definitely stick around because the next part of this presentation, which is just going to take a couple minutes, is definitely for you to get some real results. But if you're taking off, thanks for being here. Have a great rest of your day. Please, please, please stay safe, stay distant, and wash your hands, all of those things. My public service. You're welcome, you're welcome. So for those that are sticking around, my question to you is this: would you like further support in your quest to design your ultimate enrollment? That's really how we look at this. That's, I think enrollment management is kind of yesterday's news a little bit. We want to take it to the next level. We want to help you design your enrollment. And we can help you do that really over the next 3 months. Now, what makes us, I think, uniquely qualified to do that is we really got our start with these two websites, nymetroschools.com, dcschoolhub.com. They are our search platforms for schools, for parents that are looking for schools in those areas. And what it gives us is unparalleled access to what they search for, how they search, what they're clicking on. And we've interviewed over 200 parent sets over the last 5 years as they've started their journey and continued their journey, and what they value, what parts of the admission process were most valuable to them. That's invaluable information we can provide for you as we go through this and as we learn really the ethos of your school. Now, we're currently partnered with a couple dozen schools and summer camps for what we call our Enrollment Edge program. And what it does is it really brings real, tangible results. And this really is the time because people are spending more and more time online than ever. And frankly, they're evaluating their kids' learning needs because it's very different than it used to be. So my question to you, or my challenge to you, is what are you doing to take advantage of that traffic? Because this is an unprecedented time where you really need to be. And again, we are uniquely, I think, qualified based on what I've shown you so far. So here's just a quick I guess, white paper on it here. So this school, we worked with them and we continue to work with them, but we worked with them last year and they kept saying, oh, this is so great. 41%, 41.7% more new users to the site. We love that number. We love that number. And I said, just slow down. What is the quality score of those folks that are, make up this 41, or all of them, frankly, that are coming to the site? Let's wait. We need to wait and see. Oh, it's great. All this traffic coming. I said, what is the quality score? Folks, it comes down to one thing, and that is enrollment. I can send 50,000 people to your website tomorrow. How qualified are they to be a part of your school and your mission of the program? So in this case, we enrolled, we helped to enroll 11 more students than they had averaged the previous 3 years. And there's a few more of these that I can give you. But this is essentially how it works for us. It's a powerful, simple process. And the first is, hey, what do you want? What do you need for your school? Do you need search engine marketing, social media marketing? Do you need social media optimization, search engine optimization? We can help you decide what you need too. After that, you would complete a comprehensive onboarding form. And then once we've had a chance to review that, we sit down with you over maybe a cup of tea. And we have a Zoom meeting where we talk over those things. And then really we get started. Once we plug into your platforms, it's great because you have a platform that you'll get that you can look at day, night, that has real live stats. I think more important than that, because you can go into all your analytic data and see what we're seeing anyway. What we give you, and I think what really is the most helpful, and I know some folks in here are some of our school partners, And that's every 2 weeks, we feed you this data, but we also give you a narrative as to what we're seeing, what's trending, what recommendations we might have that can help you better position yourself. So we're not just doing the work for you, we're providing you with that important feedback. So these are our main 3 packages here. We have some sub packages as well. And this slide's going to come up in just a second here. But essentially what you are getting is you're getting a team of folks working for you virtually, I'll say 24/7. And last year, our ROI for our school partners was 2,400%. And these are the folks that are going to be doing it on your behalf. So for you people that were here, and there's a couple, 5, 6, 7 handfuls of you left now, you get this deal. And what it essentially is you get 1 month for free. So if you look back at these prices here, you can see $9.98, $19.95, $12.50. You can see that you are getting 1 month free here. So if you are interested in that, you can, any of the emails that you got from us today, you can just respond to that. You can email me.